How's it going, everyone? In this video, we're going to be discussing something that I am really excited about because we have a 12-valve Cummins. It's a 94 Dodge Ram 2500, and it's got a 5-speed manual, 4-wheel drive, and it's especially exciting because I just bought it. Now, first things first, I want to talk about my favorite thing with this truck at the moment, and that's the way that it sounds, because you walk around back behind this truck and it's all turbo noises. It sounds like a big semi truck, and that's pretty cool. Now, under the hood and behind this grill that is in terrible shape and is about to be replaced later this week is the 12-valve Cummins. This is the centerpiece of the whole truck. It's why I'm so excited. And what's great about these motors is that they're simple, they're all mechanical. Basically, the entire engine is driven and operated by this mechanical fuel pump, the Bosch P7100, also known as the P-pump. That basically controls your fuel, your throttle, your ignition. Everything about the motor runs off of that mechanical pump. To add any power to this truck, you just have to start messing with the P-pump and adding more boost. That way, this truck will start making a lot of power and actually be able to romp around pretty good. Before we do that, I'm gonna have to throw a higher performance clutch in it, because if we start adding power before it's got the right clutch, we're just gonna burn that up, and then the whole truck's gonna be immobile. Under the hood here, we also have a remanufactured turbo from a later model 5.9 Cummins, which is great because that means it's probably in better shape than the original turbo would have been. And that's being fed by this S&B intake. There's a couple of good modifications that have been done to this truck besides the remanufactured turbo and this nice S&B intake, and that includes a steering stabilizer up front and also some airbags in the back, as well as a massive utility bed. The transmission shifts like it's brand new because it pretty much is. The steering is good. That stabilizer bar helps it not be so sloppy, although I can tell by driving it, it does need an alignment. It feels like it's got some toe on the outside of it, and looking at the wear on the tires, you can tell that it definitely does. So there's plenty of ways that we can improve the way that this truck drives, especially making it faster, because it is slower than you would believe. But once we do a couple things to it, it's gonna wake this truck up a bunch. It won't take too much work to get this truck to a point where it drives really well, because it's already pretty good. Usually these 12-valve Cummins engines are reliable, but they leak tons of oil. It's hard to find one that's not just caked in oil. But if you look under this truck, it's pretty much bone dry. I cannot believe how good of condition this is in. And you start to get an idea of why it's in such good shape when you look at some of the paperwork that was included with this truck. Not only a user manual, but also an entire library of documentation, including original dealer paperwork and an extensive record of every bit of maintenance that has been done to it, including valve adjustments, fifth gear fix, tie rods, every oil change, transmission oil change and flush, differential oil change and flush. Pretty much everything that's ever needed to be replaced on this truck has been replaced religiously. So it's good to see that this truck was taken care of. Now, honestly, the worst thing about this truck right now is the way that it looks. On the outside, it's not very pretty, and that's partly because there's some parts that need to be replaced, like this grill that's falling off, and you can see underneath this pane, it's just falling apart. Yep. now it doesn't want to pop back in.
Oh no.
Here we go. Mint. It's perfect. Already have a new grill on order. I've got new mirrors on order. And one of the biggest things that we want to do for the look of this truck and for the performance and functionality of it is trade that massive diamond plate utility bed on the back for a factory style bed, which should shave a lot of weight off of it. It'll give me more clearance for more tire. And once I get a new bed to throw on the back of it, we're also going to repaint the truck properly because the paint on it right now looks terrible. It's super spotty and you can just really easily tell that it's been spray painted poorly. One thing that I do like about the look of this truck is these wheels. They're American racing wheels, and I know that because this one, unlike the three others, has a center cap. And I'm gonna keep these wheels because they're pretty cool looking. Once we get some bigger tires on them, it's gonna set this truck off in a big way. One of the cool things about this particular truck is this bed. Even though I'm gonna replace it at some point for a bed that makes more sense for me personally, I do appreciate this thing for how cool it is because it is unbelievably well built. It was custom made in California for the original owner of this truck, who had it for almost its entire life. I bought the thing from the guy who bought it from the original owner, and he had only had it for about a year. And this bed is just impressively built. Apparently the original owner of the truck was a general contractor, and so he really used this thing for some work, and you can tell it's built to do some serious jobs because it is sturdy. And this thing has to weigh maybe 1,500 pounds. I wouldn't be at all surprised if swapping this bed out for a factory style bed saves us almost maybe 1,000 pounds of weight. The way that this bed is constructed is impressive. And the bed isn't the only thing about the whole setup on the back of this truck that's super hefty. So you look at this ladder rack that was built for it. I don't know what kind of metal this thing is made out of, but it might be something from a superhero movie because it is just incredibly stout. And again, all of this stuff has to weigh a ton. So as cool as it is, it's gonna be nice to replace it with a more factory style bed that's gonna shave a lot of weight off this truck. Though the truck does not look very good on the outside, I'm impressed with the interior. It's almost like a time capsule. I mean, usually these trucks have cracked dashes, the seats are all torn, and in here, it's really good. I mean, the dash looks almost like new. The seats aren't torn, they're not even stained really. The carpet could use a cleaning, but besides that, it's almost like a new truck in here. So the truck does have 237,000 miles on it, which is a fair number of miles, although for one of these things, really not all that bad, because I know people that have had trucks of this same generation with the same motor and transmission that have gone up to 750,000 miles, and luckily, because the original owner of this truck took such good care of it, everything on it pretty much works. The only things that are not functional is that the factory antenna looks to have been sheared off at some point, the power locks don't work, and the light bulb under the hood doesn't come on. I don't know if it's just burned out or what, but I swear those are the only things that don't work. Power mirrors work just fine, power windows work just fine. The transmission feels like it's brand new because apparently it was replaced about 20,000 miles ago with a fifth gear fix because sometimes the nut on fifth gear spins off. So this thing is cherry. If you're wondering why I bought this truck, it's because we live out here in beautiful Colorado where you can go camping and climbing and fishing and skiing, and that's great if you have a vehicle that can get to the mountains, because to do any of those things, you inevitably end up on an off-road type of trail. And my lowered 2014 Mazda hatchback, as great of a car as it is, can't do that. And that's pretty much the only time that I actually need a car, is when I'm going into the mountains, because around town here I daily drive my motorcycle, which saves me on money, and it is really easy on gas, it's easy to park. So for the most part, I don't really need a car unless the weather is really bad, bunch of snow, or if I'm going into the mountains. And this truck is gonna be perfect for that. When I was looking for a truck, it had to be a 5-speed manual. I wasn't gonna go for anything else because that's such a huge part of what makes something like this fun to drive. When you have a diesel truck that's a manual, it completely changes the experience. I also absolutely had to have something that was 4-wheel drive because big part of the reason that I'm buying this is to take it into the mountains, so that was massively important. And luckily we got both of those things at a pretty reasonable price. What I ended up paying for this truck was $8,000, and for one of these things in this good of condition, that's actually not a bad price. So a lot of these go for $10,000, even $12,000. We have big plans for the future of this truck. Step one is to make it look better, doing basic things like getting an OEM style bed for it so that we can shave that weight off of it, give it a proper paint job, level it out, bigger tires. That's gonna be huge for the way that the truck looks. And then we can get to the fun part, which is gonna be the mechanical aspect of it. Although the truck already drives pretty well, we can make it a lot better, and that's gonna start with that high performance clutch so that we can start adding power, and then this is going to turn into quite the machine. So let me know in the comments if you guys would be interested in seeing more videos about us improving this truck and turning it into something completely different, because we have a lot planned for it. That's all for this video. As always, this is Case with the Fast Lane Truck. Be sure to go back to TFL Truck, TFL Car, and TFL Off-Road for more news, views, and real-world reviews. Thanks everyone for watching, and stay safe.